Welcome back, Dynasty lovers, to another episode of the Dynasty Interview Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Adrian, with my co-host,
Scott Martin.
Well, it's time to begin our rookie breakdowns. I know this is the sort of piece de resistance of the show. We spend most of our energy, most of our time. This is where we earn our money. And by money, I mean $0. We just do this for fun and for free. But we enjoy this. We like this. And hopefully you find this very informative and helpful to your Dynasty seasons. So first off, we always start off with the QBs. These are the guys that are making $40, $50 million. Here's looking at you, Aaron Rodgers. And is there another $50 million quarterback in this class? We will see. So Scotty, tell us what we're looking about with these quarterbacks, how we're going to break them down, how do we score them?
Yeah, we take a very deep dive into breaking down the quarterback position. We look at everything from the throwing mechanics and footwork to the way they're moving in the pocket and their pocket presence, their arm talent, their accuracy and strength. How good are they making their progressions, and what are they making the correct reads? Do they have good decision making? Are they anticipating their throws? Do they place the ball in good areas for the receivers to get good yards after the catch? The all-important rushing ability, and we look at that leadership it factor. So all these things are weighted by different points, and we grade them from 1 to 10 for each of these, with 5 being sort of that average, what you would expect for an average college quarterback, and it really gives you a good mathematical representation of where we see these guys, and really helps you to develop your draft board pretty solid.
Yeah, and I think the way we break down these scoring, it's more so geared towards fantasy, which is obviously what we're talking about, as opposed to real-life quarterback play. So, for example, guys like Jalen Hurts will get better scores on our breakdown as opposed to someone just looking at their passing mechanics, passing ability, how they operate in offense. Because we have 2 categories here as with pocket presence, maneuverability in the pocket, and then the rushing ability, 2 categories that factor in for 20% of the score. And when you're drafting an NFL quarterback, you're a true scout. You're obviously not factoring in 20% of the score as far as the quarterback breakdown, just on how can they move, how can they run. So yeah, these definitely geared towards fantasy and should be very valuable for helping you find that next quarterback, that backup quarterback, or even that starter in the future for your fantasy football teams.
And the other part of this quarterback breakdown to sort of get their total score, we look at their film score, and that's what these early podcasts are about. But sort of after the draft, we come back and do sort of a recap and give our rankings, and we calculate in our non-film score. So it takes in all their career production, their measurables, their combine performance, and the all-important landing spot and depth chart. What's their opportunity to come in and compete? Because that's probably the biggest driving factor of their fantasy values is opportunity. We look at their off-the-field stuff and then their injury history, and so it gives you a full, complete picture, which makes this a whole lot of fun, man.
Most def. And yeah, because it's the film tells you one thing, and then the non-film production, off-the-field injuries, measurables tell you another thing. And so I feel like the non-film score and the film score together gives you a very good perspective of how these guys are going to produce then, and that's our ultimate ranking at the end. Well, let's begin then, and nobody says awesomeness and can lead off the show and give you a good representation of this class than Jack Coan out of Notre Dame. I'm being a little sarcastic there. We're not really big on Jack Coan, but I think he gives you a good idea. He's a great quarterback to start off with because I think he's middle of the road then. But do you want to start? Do you want me to start with him, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, take it away. Go ahead.
So Jack Coan is a quarterback. So he's 6'3", 218 pounds, 9.5 inch hands. Previously played at Wisconsin for a few years, and then ultimately transferred to Notre Dame, and probably had his best season at Notre Dame. He 65.5% completion percentage then. He had 3,150 yards through the air, 25 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Not much of a runner. He accounted for negative 100 yards this past season at Notre Dame. Obviously, in college,
keep in mind they count the sacks in as negative for some reason.
Yeah,
but.
So in college, it's not that they run backwards; it's the sacks, as Scotty said then. But but Jack Coan, he's a game manager. I think that's the best thing I could say about him. His arm accuracy, he has a pretty good short area arm accuracy, but limited accuracy deep. His arm strength is pretty much average then, and he's not going to offer you much as far as rushing ability or mobility in the pocket. So he's not like an elite fantasy quarterback there, but I think I would say he's solid, but probably not a guy that's going to be winning you fantasy championships going forward then. And I think he's a game manager. He makes good decisions then. He has decent reads and decent anticipation, but he's just not a guy that you're looking for to take you to the next level for as far as fantasy. If he gets a good landing spot, maybe you draft him in the 5th round of your rookie drafts. But I think he's probably a poor man's Mac Jones, and I know I was probably lower than I should have been on Mac Jones coming out last year. But Mac Jones is not going to win championships, and with Jack Coan being a poor man's Mac Jones, I'm not too high on him. Like I said, he's sort of middle of the pack as far as quarterbacks go for this class.
Yeah, just sort of breaking him down from the top, I agree with a lot of the things that you said there. I think we probably graded him out pretty similar. His throw mechanics and footwork, his feet are like stone feet. They don't appear very natural. So when he maneuvers in the pocket, it's not very good. He can sort of step up into throws, but he can't extend plays at all. And he was sacked 32 times, which wasn't atrocious, but even though Notre Dame sort of had, I think, a rebuilding, kind of some young guys on the line, they protected him pretty well in the film, especially the games I watched. His arm talent, you hit on it. Accuracy, 65% is pretty solid. I mean, that's sort of the number that we're trying to hit at. And it sort of broke down when he was trying to throw on the run. Sort of his feet aren't the best. But he got a little bit of a bump for above average for accuracy. But arm strength, I mean, any tight window throw, it's either picked or it incomplete. I mean, he has as average arm strength as you can have. And if he's off balance or trying to throw off the run, he has nothing. I mean, he almost can't get anything on it. And so arm strength is just barely hitting average there.
Yep, a lot of issues thrown outside the numbers I saw. If it wasn't sort of over the middle, outside, it was a very good chance that it was going to be picked or at least knocked down.
Yeah, and what's crazy is he only threw 7 picks. Is that not he is so safe and calculated, and that's why he didn't throw so many picks. He overall makes pretty good decisions. He's an above average decision maker, and he places the ball pretty well, especially on those underneath routes or less than 15 yards. But man, if he throws a ball down the field, it's way underthrown, or it's a jump ball and his receivers bail him out. These Notre Dame receivers are pretty solid. They showed some excellent ball skills and really bailed him out quite a bit. But that big thing you're looking at is that mobility in the pocket and then the rushing ability, and he just offers nothing there. He's not the worst, rusher as far as quarterbacks in this class, which is I thought he was going to be, but he ends up being about mid-pack. There's some slow folks in this one, but he goes down way too easy, and he never breaks tackles for somebody that's sort of his size. I would expect him to be able to stay on his feet a little bit, but he's, like you said, he's a good game manager, and I think he's a backup in the league. Somebody will take him. He'll be in the league for a couple years. He's a poor man's Ian Book. That's slow.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ian Book has pretty good mobility. He was a pretty fast guy, but yeah, he's a backup at best. Then maybe a guy that can come in and play a game or two with injured frontline quarterback. But yeah, I don't see much potential for him going forward, especially from a fantasy standpoint. Then
yeah, what did you grade him?
64.
Okay, you're a little bit higher than me. I gave him a 59.
59 then. Next guy on our list, a guy that comes in with a lot of expectations, probably going to get a first-round draft capital based on what we're seeing in these mock drafts and hearing from the NFL GMs. That's Matt Corral of Mississippi. So 6'2", 212 pounds, 9-inch 5/8 hands. Then did not participate at the combines. We don't have his measurables from that standpoint. But had last 2 seasons had 2 very good seasons. 71% accuracy, completion percentage in 2000. 3,337 yards, 29 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, and 506 rushing yards on the ground in 2020. And then 2021 had 68% completion percentage for 3,349 yards, 20 touchdowns to 5 interceptions for 614 yards on the ground. So I can tell you, I was very excited to see this guy's film, see what he offered then. But since I started with Jack Coan first, I'll let Scotty take Matt Corral.
So when I watched him, I feel like my grade came out a little lower than I expected. And he's got good things that I really like about him, but he's got some holes in his game too that he's got to prove it to me he can use and do at the next level. So I thought his mechanics were okay. The biggest thing is he has that sort of Kyler Murray 3-quarter delivery, and the good thing is he can make a lot of those off-platform throws, which are excellent. He can throw it on the run just as good as he can throw it standing up in the pocket. But the guy doesn't like to stay in the pocket. That's kind of the problem. The other thing is when he throws every pass, it's a laser, man. He's got to learn how to throw with a little bit of touch sometimes and take some off on those underneath routes and so those intermediate passes. One pass he does not have to fix is that quick slant. He probably has the best quick slant anticipation throw of anybody I've ever scouted. It's phenomenal. And that's why you see he was 67.9% in 2021. His deep ball accuracy is just very average. He seems to overthrow or underthrow a lot of balls, so he has a little bit of trouble there. But his arm strength is phenomenal. I look at every throw and sort of their longest throws. I try to map out how many yards he threw it, and I saw him throw it 65 yards. Just a phenomenal throw. So he can grip it, rip it, throw it. His pocket presence. He doesn't take a lot of sacks because he's looking to pull and run. His decision making is pretty good. He's a risk taker and really trusts his arm, sometimes too much, but to throw the ball the way he does and operate the way he does and only throw 5 picks, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so I like I said, I was excited to watch him because I thought he was going to be the first good quarterback from this group then. But I actually came away more disappointed than not then. I saw a guy that really wasn't ready or isn't ready to be an NFL quarterback. I think he has very good accuracy. You mentioned those slants. I think that, and I think he actually throws with some good touch. Then I don't necessarily think he rips it and grips it every single time, but he can put some touch on it then. But from what I saw I was very surprised. He only had 5 picks in 2021. His decision making, it scares me at times. Like he can lock in on a target pretty significantly, and then he throws a very dangerous ball. So that there should have been a lot more picks in 2021 than I think there was. I think he's more representative of that 14 picks in 2020 from that standpoint then. And he tends to throw the ball. Doesn't have the greatest ball placement. He can throw behind the receivers, and then on his. You said he threw it 65 yards, but there's other times when he's throwing the deep ball and it comes up short a lot of their.
Yeah, and that's one of those mechanics, I think.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It definitely has that 3-quarter delivery. I have that on my sheet then as well. But he also has happy feet. Like you said, he was very quick to sort of get out and run then. He has a quick release, which does help him out then. But there needs to be a lot more polish in this guy then. He's definitely a baller. He has the leadership ability then. He looks like he carries his team very well. He offers that rushing ability then. Like I said, he had that 614 yards on the ground this year with decent speed. And the other thing is I thought he did a very good job of knowing when to slide then. He didn't take a lot of huge hits then.
Yeah, he learned that. He learned that as the year went on.
Yeah, so he definitely learned that, and it definitely showed then. And I think that's something he needs to do in the NFL because you're not going to survive very long taking those big, huge hits then. But it's like I said, I thought he had a chance to compete for that top spot in this group here. But ultimately, he came out around my fourth and fifth quarterback in this class then. So I ultimately gave him a score of 74 then. I think he has potential, and if he gets drafted in the first round, that alone makes him valuable. So we'll have to see where he goes then. But my comp for him is I have him more as like a young Ryan Tannehill then. So another sort of unpolished guy, more athletic skills than necessarily quarterback skill at this point in time. But he could grow into something. And Ryan Tannehill had a good couple of years there when he first started in Tennessee. Last year wasn't as good, but there is room for potential there. But I was definitely a little more disappointed than I thought it would be going into the process.
Wherever he goes, they're going to have to sort of make their offense him. And the guy that he reminds me a lot of, he's better than, but sort of what I expected from Kellen Mond last year. He's a way better athlete than Kellen Mond, but he's got a lot of things to work on.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're seeing the NFL scouts as well saying. There's not a lot of you're going to be the starter day one in the NFL for this upcoming season. They're picking up Marcus Mariota. They're taking a second chance on Mitch Trubisky. Carson Wentz is getting his third chance in Washington. So there's going to be a lot of spots where they're going to have time to groom these guys. And pretty much the only spot, the only spot where there's almost a definite need at quarterback left is probably in Seattle. Like, I can't think of another spot that says we have to have a quarterback.
Atlanta will absolutely take one, and so will New Orleans. I think they don't have to play, but if they got the guy they wanted, and Pittsburgh, they'll play.
Yeah, no, but I think they got the guy that they wanted. I think they're going to start Mariota in Atlanta. They're going to start Trubisky. They're going to start Winston in New Orleans. But the only place that doesn't have anybody, like if you don't count Drew Lock, is Seattle. So I think I think this class in general is guys that need time to develop then, and I think that's what we're going to see. So I think they're good investments, but there's no one you're going to be picking in the first round of your rookie drafts that's super flex. So,
yep, agreed.
But we'll get into that. But next on our list is Dustin Crum out of Kent State. So 6'1", 210 pounds, 9 3/8 inch hands, and as far as his production, he had 3 good years of production then. So, but his 2021 stats, so 64% completion percentage, 3,206 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 703 yards rushing on the ground then. So what did we got with Dustin Crum out of Kent State? Simple enough. I think I'm going straight to my comp. This guy's Taysom Hill then. Average accuracy, average arm strength, limited zip, vision and progression are limited. He locks in. Anticipation's limited. He's a long delivery, happy feet, very good pocket presence, great mobility then. He's a sort of bigger body, seems more stout like a Taysom Hill then. And his rushing ability, he has some power then. So he could be used as an option QB like Taysom Hill. And then as far as his ball placement, okay. Decision-making ability, okay decisions. His better decision is to run the ball. And he does have a submit factor being a 3-year starter, but other than that, I don't see much else. I don't know if you have anything else positive to say, but yeah, he's definitely lower on my list. He's my third to lowest quarterback rating.
Yeah, he's in my bottom, tier from my bottom. You hit on pretty much everything I saw. So throwing mechanics, extremely long and slow throwing motion. He holds it way too long. He's got horrible heavy feet. For a guy that had this much production rushing, I was like, what the heck is going on? But he's just a big dude, or he plays big. I mean, he's only 210 pounds, but he's impossible to bring down. He's a load. So you mentioned the pocket presence. He stands up pretty well in the pocket. He doesn't have quick feet. He had 38 sacks against him. The arm talent, the strength, like you said, he's about 50 yards and that's it. And he can't really make those outside hash throws or those tight window throws. He struggles there. So a little below average. Arm accuracy, 64.1% was pretty good. He's average or 10 yards and in, but a lot of his stuff is just inflated by these short throws and slants and screens. So that's why you see a little bit better completion percentage. You mentioned on the other stuff like the anticipation, the ball placement. I mean, this guy does one thing. He's a RPO Taysom Hill type quarterback. I love that comp. That's perfect. And I don't think he really reads defenses or anything like that. So he's not going to throw a big bunch of interceptions because it's hidden by this offense the way it's ran. And that's why he only threw 6 picks. His calling card is that added rushing ability because he can absolutely score inside the 10. If you're on the goal line, there's a good chance he can get you that touchdown. But he's just big and he's an ugly runner. I hate it. He's such an ugly runner. And I know we don't talk about the combine, but he ran a respectable 40 for a quarterback. And it's just because he's a long strider, because he's got no short area quickness.
Yeah, so he's not draftable.
Nope, not in any league.
Extremely surprised by the NFL draft. Not much there. Let's move on to the next guy. Kaleb Eleby, Western Michigan, 6'1", 208, 9.25-inch hands, a vertical of 25.5 inches, a broad of 111, and a 3-cone drill of 7.57. So he didn't run a 40, but we know he's limited athletically.
Well, let me put that into percentile rankings for you.
0, 0, 0.
No. 1 percentile for his 3-cone, 4th percentile for his vertical, 50th percentile for a broad jump.
And lower numbers means bad.
Yeah, yep.
In terms of his production, in 2021, he had a 63.5% completion percentage for 3,277 yards for 23 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And surprisingly, he had positive rushing yards for 64 yards on the ground. He wasn't a negative 100 like a Jack Coan there. But I start with Dustin Crum. So, Scotty, you get Kaleb Eleby.
He's got some okay traits. He just got a lot of average things too. So he's got pretty sound footwork and bottom half with his throw mechanics, but he puts too much touch on the ball. He doesn't sort of drive through each throw. He leaves a lot of balls just up in the air. When he's on the run, his mechanics break down for sure. He's definitely not an off-platform thrower. His pocket presence is okay. He stands in the pocket pretty good, but he just doesn't control his pocket. He's got very slow feet. Obviously, by that 3-cone, that absolutely showed that.
First percentile.
Yeah. And the arm talent, I mean, it's okay. His arm strength is just very average. Most of his stuff is more underneath stuff and on slants, and he does okay there. But he can't throw the ball down the field. Arm accuracy, it's okay. It's literally like he's lobbing the ball, and it's just too much touch. He's overall protects the ball pretty well. Only had 6 picks. And he'll get to his second read a few times. And he throws the ball with a little bit above average anticipation. So he seems to anticipate the coverage opening. So you can see he has a good ability to be a backup quarterback in the league. But there's not a lot here to build on as far as him being a starting fantasy quarterback on your team. He's a better athlete and runner than the stats show, and he can be that guy that can pick up a first down. Maybe a little bit of upside as a runner, a little bit more than first down, but he's just a solid guy that's poor athletic measurables, and he's an okay asset to the quarterback room. That's about it. He graded out at a 57 for me.
Yeah, he's a quarterback that's a decent college quarterback for a non-power school. but he's not an NFL quarterback. He's not even a backup quarterback. He's maybe some practice squad fodder.
Yeah, practice squad fodder is better. Yeah.
And like you said, he doesn't have much arm strength. At least he doesn't put much arm strength into it. Lacks significant zip. Then he has decent accuracy, but then he's apparently he's got very good leadership capabilities. Then he was praised by that out at Western Michigan. Then, but those are only two things that sort of stand out. Then, as you said, he has those heavy feet. Then, and I saw anytime with any rush he gets caught in the backfield, he can't escape from that rush. Can't step up into the pocket. Rushing ability is, like I said, I was surprised by that 64 yards that he had positive this year because he's not going to offer much there at all. And his vision is pretty poor, and his progressions are pretty poor. He locks into that primary receiver way too often. And like I said, he's not. He's going to be undrafted. He's going to probably get on someone's roster for camp, but I think he's going to be cut pretty quickly then. I don't see any value here. So he's in the bottom four of the class here from my standpoint. I gave him a 63. He was 1 point ahead of Dustin Crum. Next guy on the list, Chase Garbers out of California. So wasn't invited to the combine. So that probably should tell you something right there.
He was a big snub, though. He's a bigger name.
Yeah, but if you don't get invited to the combine, that's red flag-ish. So we don't have true measurables with him, but as far as his program measurables, 6'2", 225, so he's probably about 6'1", 6'0 and a half then, and probably 215. So in his was a 4-year starter there at Cal then. In 2021, he had 2,531 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions then. And then as far as rushing ability, he offers something in the rushing game. 456 yards on the ground then, and 4 touchdowns. So, Scotty, what do you see with Chase Garbers?
So he actually came out with a pretty solid grade for me. He, like you mentioned, he wasn't invited to the combine. He did have his pro day, but they either didn't release those numbers or he didn't run. So we don't really have any of his pro day stuff. But on film, he had some stuff that I thought were plus or above average. So his throw mechanics were pretty good. He has solid footwork. He's able to throw on the run pretty well. And he's able to change his throwing angle at times when he needs to. He came from a pro-style offense, so that's a positive. But his release is a little slow. He maneuvers pretty well in the pocket. He did take 21 sacks, but he steps up routinely into throws and can extend plays, so he's got some plus ability there. And he'll stand in the pocket and deliver the ball even despite the pressure just barreling down on him. So he's a great sort of backup quarterback. He's going to fit great somewhere because he has good vision. He routinely goes through his progressions. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. He's not a big risk taker, but he only had 8 picks, so that's kind of okay. He's got okay anticipation. Sometimes he's a little bit late, but he places the ball in pretty good spots and gives his receivers room to run. So just sort of across the board, he's a little above average. The arm strength is very average. You just don't see the down the field throws. So I don't know if that's because he can't throw the ball over 50 yards. That was the longest throw I saw on tape. And his accuracy is a little above average. But he's just an average guy. He has some production on the ground, like you mentioned. And he's serviceable. He's not a runner, but he can pick up the first down. Sort of like a poor man's Daniel Jones. Maybe not as good of a runner as Daniel Jones, but he gives you that sort of thought. Great game manager, good in the quarterback room. He actually came in sort of third tier. So he's like my fifth or sixth quarterback on this list. So a little bit above mid pack. I don't hate him. It's just that a lot of these guys are trash.
Yeah, I didn't spend too much time on him. Like I said, non-combine invitee. But he's a guy that has, I said, decent arm strength, decent release. Then he's actually pretty good about keeping the plays alive. He has that rushing ability that offers some some positive as well then too. His ball placement is not terrible, but he does tend to force the ball. And I think you see that with his touchdown to interception ratio being 2-1, which doesn't sound that bad, but it's actually not that great in college football nowadays. I don't see him being a starting quarterback, but I think he could probably become a backup in the NFL, depending on landing spot, and then make it in a game here and there. But I don't know. He's not. I think he's 5th or 6th on your list because of the just the quality of this class, as opposed to him being a great prospect. But yeah, I said I'm not going out there drafting him, but it's a guy to keep an eye on. Then
yeah, he's off my draft board. I mean, he's not somebody I'm going to draft, even in Superflex. I'm not. He's a name to remember.
Even though
there's 5 guys. There's 5 guys in this class that I would draft.
Yeah, in Superflex though, if you're 5th on someone's list, then
he's number 6. He's actually number 6. I mean, maybe I'd take a late round flyer on him if he gets.
Yeah, you get a 5th round pick. That's not too bad then. Especially if you have Billy and Blake. Said I'm not really big on his outcome here, and I think the scouts are the same way, because if you don't get invited to the combine
as a QB,
especially as a quarterback, it's tough. It's tough. Our next guy on the list
definitely didn't get invited. Did not get invited
to the combine. So this is Aqeel Glass, Alabama A&M.
I feel bad. I'm sorry. I feel bad that we scouted him, but he was getting so much hype, and people were like praising him as like this huge deep sleeper. And so I apologize. Don't spend much time on him.
Scotty said I had to watch him. He's getting all this hype. And I think I texted Scotty after halfway through the first game, like, why are you making me watch this guy? So let's get back to him. So 6'5", 215. Good measurables there, maybe a little bit thin.
Yeah, his pro day he came in 6'4", 231. So a lot bigger, which makes sense. Weight-wise, and then his height was a little shorter, so that fits more with what you see on film.
Okay, that's more comparable then. And then his production was actually pretty good. So 2021, 62.6% completion percentage, 3,568 yards, 36 touchdowns to 7 interceptions then, and then and negative 1.8 yards on the ground with 1 rushing TD.
You want to hear his pro day numbers?
Yeah.
If you are this bad, you don't need to run. Just don't work out. He was 5.27 40, 7.64 3 cone, 23.5-inch vertical, and a 99-inch broad jump. That's 0 percentile for 40, 3 cone, vertical, and 2nd percentile for the broad jump. I might be able to get off my couch and put these numbers up. So I feel bad but this guy's not a Division I quarterback, so I don't see the love.
Yeah, but so the only score I gave him, I guess 2 scores I gave above average. One was the leadership. He's a 4-year starter, so I gave him above average there. And then I guess progression, he does go through his progressions, but does not see things in zone coverage a lot, so he's definitely prone to picks then. But everything else was average or below then. So accuracy was pretty bad, especially on crossing routes. Like, he could not throw a crossing route to save his life then. The arm strength is very, very average. His mobility, it's the lowest grade I gave anyone in this whole class, was a 2. A 2. So he had, I say this gently, piss poor pocket presence, poor mobility, poor stepping up, poor awareness. So it was just bad then. And then in capital letters in rushing ability, I put non-athletic, not athletic, capital letters. And I think I also have here, he did punt once in a game.
He punts as good as he runs.
Yeah, that punt was terrible. So I'm not trying to knock this guy, but I don't see where the hype was coming from. That guy he was talking about, or what he read about, it is just not there.
Yeah, it's not just one person saying it either. That's what's crazy. It's some prominent people that have him hyped up.
Yeah, this guy's not even an undrafted free agent. He shouldn't even be considered for an NFL roster.
He should have went. I guess I don't think he had any more eligibility. But anyway, I saw pretty much exactly what you saw. He does have, and this is where people were like saying, "Oh, his arm strength is excellent." No, it's slightly above average. He can touch 55 yards, but he at times flashes some plus throws, but that's about it. You mentioned some of the decision making. Some of that stuff was okay. I don't know how he didn't throw 100 interceptions, just because he just doesn't have the accuracy. I mean, he is literally the worst lower half you can possibly have, both with sort of your throwing base and platform and your footwork and rushing ability. Like he's slow speed and just he cannot. It's all upper arm strength for his throws. He took 25 sacks in 10 games. And their offense is one read, get it out. One read, get it out. He still got sacked 25 times. So he's the bottom quarterback in my class. He got a 48 from me, so very disappointed.
Let's move on. So next up, Sam Howell, UNC, 6'1", 218, 9 1/8 inch hands. Did not participate at the combine. Was a 3-year starter with very good production in 2019, 2020, and 2021. 2020 stats are probably the best, but 2021 he was 62.5% completion percentage, 3,056 yards, 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 828 yards on the ground. He didn't have more than 200 on the ground in the previous 2 years combined, and then he had 11 touchdowns on the ground as well then too. So definitely stepped up his rushing ability here with his prized backmates in the NFL with Javonte Williams and Carter in New York then. But so I came away actually very impressed with Sam Howell. He's a guy that actually was predicted to be the first overall pick by a lot of mock drafts before the season started. Like I said, he had a worse year in 2021, but he definitely lost. He lost his 2 top receivers. He lost his 2 top running backs. I'm not sure what he lost on the offensive line there too, but definitely had to break some new guys in. But what you saw with him is he has great arm strength. So I gave him 9 as far as arm strength. He has very good zip. He has a beautiful deep ball, like probably one of the best in this class then. And his accuracy is actually pretty good then too. So his accuracy, I thought was very good for how much he threw the ball downfield. Still had a very good completion percentage then, and he anticipates the holes very well. Then reads coverages very well. He has a quick release, and then I was surprised by his rushing ability. I didn't expect him to be this rushing phenom this year compared to his previous 2 years, but he is not. It's not elite by the rushing ability by any standpoint, but he can get it done. So he's probably along the lines of that sort of the Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson, sort of Derek Carr type comps there from the rushing ability standpoint, and definitely a baller then. So a confident 3-year starter then. I think he came in as like a 4 or 5 star recruit, so definitely has the pedigree there. The main thing I saw with him that he needs to tone back a little bit is he's just too aggressive. He needs to use his check down. He always wants to make that big splash play, and he needs to sort of cut it back. But the comp I actually gave him, the place where I would like him to go is actually in Seattle. I see him as like almost like a Russell Wilson type comp. So that shorter quarterback then, beautiful deep ball, some rushing ability then. And like I said, I came away very impressed with Sam Howell then. And he's in that tier 1 of quarterbacks. I have 3 guys in the tier 1. And like I said, I think he's near the top of this class then. Oh, and one other point. Did you check out Josh Downs?
Number 11?
Number 11, his wide receiver. 101 catches, 1,335 yards, and 8 touchdowns.
Well, that should tell you all you need to know.
He looked awesome.
That should tell you all you need to know.
I don't know why he didn't get playing time over the guys that got drafted in the NFL last season or on rosters now. He was. I didn't like the UNC guys as much as you did. I didn't think they were bad, but I wasn't high on them. But I loved everything I saw from Josh Downs. He's a playmaker, so I'm looking forward to him coming out in the 2022 in the 2023 draft then, because he's a sophomore this year, will be junior next year. But he definitely should come out. He's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how many drops he had, because I saw him drop quite a few balls. So I think he's got plus upside. He flashed on film for sure. I graded Sam Howell based on the tape this year. So he is one of those guys that you get your numbers, but you have to look at the traits that he's poor in and see if there's plus ability to grow there, or if he's shown that in the past and there's a reason for it. So he's a guy that his score is much lower than I feel about him. He will finish as my number 3 in the class, I have no doubt. Landing spot will not dictate that. I mean, it would take literally a crucial blow to the top 2 guys' landing spot for Howell to take that over. He actually graded out the same grade for me as Matt Corral, but they are in 2 totally different tier breaks for me. So I graded the film this year, and it's a tale of two different quarterbacks. The film that you saw last year and the film that you saw this year. And the reason is his receivers dropped the balls like crazy. And that's why he had to become a completely different quarterback for them to win. That's why he tucked and ran like crazy, and he was so uber aggressive, punching the ball down the field to downs. It's because they had literally nothing else anywhere. He had spotty line play. He was always like trying to improvise and just make things happen. And that's a testament. So if you put the positives you saw from 2020 with the positives you saw from 2021, he's a heck of a prospect. So I love Sam Howell. But the stuff that I saw on film this year, so let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about if those are things that can be fixed. Because there's big concerns. Throwing mechanics, the ball slap has got to go. If he could eliminate that ball slap, he's got excellent mechanics. He has to throw off his back foot a few times because he's, back there, hoping not to get planted on his back, because that happens literally every other play. But if it wasn't for that ball slap, his wind-up and release is nice and quick and good. It's just that's an extra element you can't have. So he took 48 sacks. 48 sacks. Wow. He's very quick to break the pocket this year. He was not like that last year. He was pretty calculated and maneuvered pretty well and knew when to run. And it leads to him putting the ball on the ground too. He had quite a few fumbles, but he is a tough dude. He is a baller. He is the baller in the class, that's for sure. The arm strength, 65 yards on a rope, no problem. He had as good arm strength as anybody I've seen. So I ended up giving him a 10 there, actually. His arm accuracy, I gave him a bump because it's above average. His numbers, I think they fell like 6, 7, maybe 8% drop off from 1 year from 2020 to 2021. That just tells 6%. You what kind of playmakers he had around him. His vision, you mentioned this, and this is so true. He was always looking for the home run. He doesn't read the whole field this year and sort of make those. He only made a read or two and then got the ball out, or just really chucked it down the field. And he did not show that in 2020. So I think that's why I didn't kill him on his grade there, because I gave him a 7. I think that could be a plus. I think he could get to an 8. His decision making, he only threw 9 picks despite this haphazard, crazy, down the field attack. And he throws with above average anticipation, and his ball placement is excellent. I mean, how many fingertip catches did Downs have down the field just placed right on a dime? And the exciting thing is he's a better runner than all those guys you listed. That was not something that he ever showed on tape. He showed that he could move and pick up the first down, but this guy's tough as nails, and he can get you 20 yards every now and again. So he's got plus rushing ability. So I came away with a 71 grade on Sam Howell, but I think he has a chance to touch 80. I really, really like Sam Howell a lot. It's just, you got to grade the film as you see it, and sometimes you make bad habits and they stick with you. So he came in at 71 for me, and he will be my number 3 quarterback, no doubt.
Yeah, I actually had him coming in at an 80% or an 80 overall as far as score.
I don't mind
and
that.
Like I said, he's in my tier 1. He is 1 point below the top scoring guy in this class.
Wow.
Top score is 81%.
That was my top score. Yep.
Yeah, top score is 81. We'll get to that guy later, but like I said, if it all depends on landing spot. If he goes to Seattle as a first round pick, I'm taking him as my one quarterback then.
I won't do that. I even if he has the perfect landing spot and the other two guys don't, these other two guys I think are ahead of him.
That they're raw.
Both on potential and on readiness to play. So
yeah,
Sam Howell will be my number 3. I think the landing spots could absolutely kill these other two guys, but I love Sam Howell.
I think he's.
I will reach to take him in Superflex.
He's the most polished guy in this class. He's actually the most startable ready guy in this class, and I think he has all the intangibles. And he balled out 3 years in a row.
Well, you do remember last year when we were doing all the great quarterbacks we had in that class, we were like, Sam Howell's just, he's not all that good. Well, because then he showed all of the things this year that he didn't show the years before. I wish he could have put both of those together.
Yeah, and actually I saw him in the Notre Dame game this to start the season off, and I'm like, I'm not going to be impressed by this guy. So I actually went in thinking I wasn't going to like him very much, but when I actually broke down the film and watched him specifically, I came away very impressed. So I'm
especially the arm strength.
And there's 3 guys I probably consider taking higher in Superflex in the first round, and he's one of them.
Yep.
Especially for the first round pick, that makes all the sense. But let's move. And then like I said, Josh Downs, I can see him being a first round pick in your rookie drafts next year. That guy has potential all over him, and he's going to be a 4.3 guy.
Oh,
he
definitely.
Is fast.
Yep.
He is fast. But next on the list, small school guy, Kelley out of southeastern Louisiana, was actually in Arkansas for 2 seasons. He came in as a 4-star recruit. Big dude, 6'7", 249, 9 3/8 inch hands then. Did not participate at the combine then. But uber productive this year. And the funny thing is he actually won the Walter Payton Award, which is the top player in the FCS then in 2020. But his stats this year were even better. I think he came in second this year. So 73.6% completion percentage, 5,124 yards, 44 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, 491 yards on the ground, and 16 touchdowns on the ground. Scotty, what did you see with this mountain of a man?
Yeah, definitely a mountain of a man. Number one, first thing you notice on film is he has Jacob Eason legs. That's the first thing. He is huge.
Scotty loved Jacob Eason, by the way.
Yeah, I would love for him to get the opportunity there in Seattle. I think he's in
Seattle now?
Yeah, he was on their practice squad.
Oh, I still had him in Indianapolis in my mind.
Yeah, so anyway, Kelley, these stats and all this stuff pops out big time. And there's a reason for it. I'll explain it. The guy, we'll start with the mechanics. Slow feet, but the ball comes out pretty quick. He's got good, nice over-the-top mechanics, so above average there. His pocket presence, he just sort of stands there. He doesn't really maneuver or move in the pocket, and so he's below average in that regard. When you talk about arm talent, his arm strength is a little above average. He touched just a little over 55 yards a few times. But the ball does hang up on deep throws, and he really struggles to just drive the ball down the field and make those short window throws. You wouldn't expect that from accuracy of 70 or completion percentage at 73.6%, but they were so many easy easy throws. And the ones that weren't easy, the dudes were literally wide open. Like, he played against JV competition in some instances. And when he played good teams, like he played against JMU, I don't know if it was the championship or just deep in the playoffs, but he looked like trash. He couldn't play at Arkansas. He can't play in the NFL. He had serviceable production from a rushing standpoint. I mean, he's a mountain of a man. So, I mean, obviously he's not easy to bring down. And so he's a great red zone threat. Like, he is a goal line Josh Allen. And that's the only characteristic he shares with Josh. He looks more like Cam Newton now than so maybe that's a better comp. He's an absolute red zone threat to run the ball in. And that's why he had 16 touchdowns. But he's not going to do that against better competition. And he when he throws the ball, especially with that high completion percentage, you expected him to be pretty good ball placement and anticipation. He does not have those things. They're below average. He puts the ball in places for his guys to just get hit. I mean, like, I don't know how many times on the film I was like, oh God, I hope he gets up, because he's off target, man. And I know this isn't in the film score, but the dude had a DWI and got arrested. That probably led to him leaving Arkansas. So there's some off the field concerns there too. He came out at a 52 for me, and he's in the bottom tier.
So I liked him a lot more. He is my number 6 quarterback on the board. So I actually gave him a 72. I think the arm accuracy is pretty good then. He does miss some slants, but if guys are open, he's hitting them. He's not throwing outside the numbers. He's hitting them on the numbers.
Do you see how small those guys were that he was playing against?
Well, do you see how big he was? Everyone looks small compared to him.
Yeah, but...
and then his arm strength, he has arm strength, but I agree with you. Like, he didn't take many shots downfield. Like, a lot of it was these shorter throws then. So arm strength was put as good, but not elite then. The one thing I saw that he does go through his progressions, but he has trouble against zones. So that's where his interceptions came into play, with these guys sort of falling back in zone coverage then. And that's where you saw things sort of go haywire for him then. His mechanics, actually pretty good. So he's 6'7", and he also throws straight over the top then. So he throws like a 6'9" guy. So it'd be rare that he gets balls batted down in the NFL if he gets under center then. And his footwork was actually pretty good then. As far as pocket presence then, he's not the greatest as far as lateral movement. He's more that red zone goal line guy. So he's going to get a lot of points that way if he becomes an NFL starter then. Another thing I have here, dude needs to tighten his helmet. His helmet came off so many freaking times. I think I had it like 4 times, came off in 3 games I was watching. So dude needs to strap that thing on a little bit better. And then, like, leadership-wise, like I said, Walter Payton Award winner. That's nothing to sneeze about, and he's a baller. Like, he carried his team. Like, he was it, and that was it. And then, but like I said, I still think this is a guy that can be an NFL starter. So I think he has potential. And like I said, with that rushing ability, he offers even more potential in the NFL to steal that goal line work then. And he could, I'm not saying he's going to ever get that where, but he's a guy that can sneak into the back end of the QB1 categories as far as scoring on the NFL season. If he becomes a full-time starter. I'm not saying he's ever going to be a full-time starter, but he offers that potential. So I'm actually pretty high on his potential. And like I said, he came in at a 72 then for 6th in the class then. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. I think he's draftable.
He's off my board for sure. I think the big difference is inner scoring, because we said a lot of the same similar things. I felt he stared at receivers, and when he was forced to read zone defense, exactly what I wrote here, he really struggled. So he got a below average 4 for me there. And then his anticipation and ball skills, I think you probably graded him better, but he got 4s there for me because I felt he just reacted to every throw or every opening. He didn't anticipate anything. So I sort of knocked him there. But he's a Mack truck running the ball, so, I mean, maybe he could have a little bit of a bump there in rushing, so maybe he deserves a 53. But yeah, I think he's scoring too
low. And like I said, he was a 4-star recruit coming out then. His numbers at Arkansas weren't great when he did play. but there's potential there. So that's what I'm seeing. And in this class, with a lack of potential, he definitely passed some guys up fairly easily there. So going from the mountain of the man to the midget of the class, DR King. So when I was following this guy, or just hearing about this guy, going from Houston then to Miami, I was thinking of like this 6'3", 6'4" kind of guy. I wasn't expecting a 5'9", 196-pound guy, 9 1/4 inch hands. Did not participate at the combine then. He had decent production in 2018, almost 3,000 yards, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 674 yards on the ground then. And then 2020, 2,686 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 538 yards rushing, and 4 TDs. In 2021, he had another injury then, which sort of put him back then. But what did you see with DR King?
Well, I was hoping that his listed 5'11", 195 was going to get that crazy bump like Matt Corral got, because Ole Miss reported him to be 6 foot, like 210, and he came out 6'2". But that was not the case. He's 5'9", and that pretty much makes him undraftable, unfortunately, because I graded him super well, because he has a lot of plus things. It's just unfortunate that he's 5'9". I don't think there's a place in the league for that size, unfortunately. I think he's going to end up playing like running back or slot receiver or something like that, and maybe be able to mix in as a gadget guy, because he's got plus skills.
Yeah, he's got a decent arm then, decent accuracy. He's mobile. It didn't really show in the 2021 film, but his past years when he was healthy then, definitely a rushing threat then. And dude's a baller. Like he showed that he can carry a team then, take his team to wins then. But unless you have elite everything, such as like a Kyler Murray, you're not going to be able to play in this league at 5'9", or start in this league at 5'9". At best, you're looking at like a Philip Walker. At best. So I agree with you. He's probably going to be a slot wide receiver, some type of gadget guy, some slash player, but he's not going to be an NFL quarterback. And I gave him a 66, which is
wow. You graded him higher than I did.
Well, he comes in at probably sixth to last, probably just a little bit below the middle of the class here. But he's a decent quarterback in the college, and I probably would have liked him at Penn State over Sean Clifford, but he's not going to be an option in the NFL, and like I say, he's sort of off the board at this point in time.
Yeah, he's number 7 on my list, but he's not on. He won't. I can't draft him, but he's number 7 on as far as film score. His throwing mechanics, good, quick, sudden release. Sometimes he doesn't get his lower half into throws, so he's a little above average there. He extends play super well. He just needs to get the ball out sometimes. Sometimes he just holds it too long. His arm accuracy, 66% completion percentage. That was a very nice ball and puts it on the numbers, especially in the short intermediate area. And he's making a lot of flashy tight window throws. I was very impressed there. And he threw 60+ yards on film. I mean he
has an arm.
Yeah, he a definite plus gunslinger, grip it, rip it type guy. His vision is above average. He only threw 4 picks. In 2 games, he had all those picks in, and I'm not sure he's the one to blame on a couple of those. So I think he protects the ball pretty well, and he places the ball beautifully. Gives you that plus rushing ability. I mean, the big thing for him is size, and then I don't know that he'll get drafted because of the injury concerns. He had only 3 games in 2021 due to this right shoulder injury, and they shut him down. But he tore his ACL in 2020. He had tore his meniscus in 2018. So the medical is going to red flag him. The size is going to red flag him. unfortunately, he's going to go to somebody's camp. They're going to turn him into something. He's going to sit on a practice squad, and he might be a named star just to see if he hits some gadget role. Heck, you never know when somebody, like, they're going to stick him in a Taysom Hill role, and he'd be great for fantasy. So he's a guy he's cool to talk about, but not good for the next level.
Yeah, fun to watch, but not going to translate to anything. Next guy on the list, E.J. Perry out of Brown, 6'2", 211, 9-inch hands. One of the few quarterbacks that participated fully in the combine here. So decent speed, 4.65 40. Vertical, 34.5 inches. Pretty good. Broad jump of 123 and 3 cone of 6.85. So definite athletic ability there.
Yeah, I mean, and then, like, you gave the numbers there, but like 83rd percentile 40, 87th percentile vertical, broad jump 95th percentile, 3 cone 89th percentile. So plus athleticism.
And then as far as production, 2021, 3,033 yards, 23 touchdowns to 14 picks, 402 yards on the ground with 7 touchdowns. So start us off, E.J. Brown.
Yeah, I wish we could stop there for him, because that's where it really that's where it shines.
Well, speaking of shine, I think he got a lot of that shine from the East-West Shrine game.
Yeah.
He had 241 yards, 3 touchdowns. And so I think people paid attention to him a lot there. But when you watch the film,
well, that's the reason I scouted him, was because of his, what the hype he got from that. But his throwing mechanics are okay. He's got a good compact throw, good sound base. He can lose them a little bit under pressure and gets a little sloppy, but above average. He's got some ability in the pocket. He's able to extend some plays sometimes. He appears very smooth as a runner. So definitely, what you're seeing there from the combine shows up on tape. He's very serviceable as a runner, and he put up a little bit of production there. So I think he's got a little bit above average there. The arm talent that's where it breaks down pretty big. He completed 66.5% of his throws, but he really, really struggles compensating for the below average arm strength. At best, he can only touch 50 on film. So I don't think he's got any more in the tank, because you see him spraying the ball when he's trying to really get it down the field or put some zip on it. And he gets past his first read a few times, so his vision's a little above average, but he threw 14 picks in 10 games in the Ivy League. And he's got small hands, he's turnover prone. So his team only won 2 games, okay? His team won 2 games. I gave him a 5 for leadership. Maybe I could have not knocked him so much, but he came out as a 50. He's in my bottom tier.
He's my second to last player.
Yeah, mine too. Nobody's
pretty much last player, because we shouldn't have scouted Mr. Glass.
Yep.
I give him this. He's competitive. He's a guy you want to play football with, a guy you want on your flag football team. He has great athletic ability at the quarterback position. But after that, like they said, the arm strength is average at best, arm talent average at best. And then his decision-making, 14 picks in the Ivy League, I think that says it all right there. It's just not going to cut it. And he has a long throwing motion too. So that lack of zip, long throwing motion equals picks. And doesn't have progression, doesn't have a lot of anticipation. Like I said, he's a guy you want to play football with, but not a guy you want on your NFL team.
If he was really solid, he would have started at Boston College, but he couldn't cut it there. So,
yeah, it's tough, but I just don't see it. He's off my board.
Yeah, he's on a practice squad. He'll be in the league a couple years, practice squad, but he's not on any board.
So I think that completes the quarterbacks. Or at least the first half of the quarterbacks then. And then next episode, we're going into the other half. So names featured, Mr. Kenny Pickett. We got Desmond Ritter, Carson Strong, and Malik Willis, to name a few then. And I think we got 7 more then?
Yeah, that's the real meat of this class, I think. These guys coming up. There's a couple good names here in this top part, this first episode that, really excited about. But for the most part, the meat is in this next show.
Yeah, I think the meat of this class, or this past group we broke down, was Sam Howell, easily the top of this group then, and then Matt Corral, based on where he gets drafted. Yeah, so check out the next episode then. Also check out the profiles on these guys that we just broke down then. They'll have our scores. They'll have our their tape connected to that. They'll have their stats. They'll have their measurables from the combine, their 40 times they've ran them. So it has everything there. So our player profiles are, I think, the best in the business. They have everything you need all in one spot, one-stop shopping. Okay, so this is Joseph Adrian signing off.
And this is Scott Martin, and you just listened to the Dynasty Interview Fantasy Football Podcast.